Hello, dear friends. Here we are at Kardec Radio at 11 p.m., nourishing our souls with the Immortal Messages. Immortal Messages is a program based on a book that is translated but under revision. Instruções Psicofônicas. Yes, so we are going to share with you messages that were brought from illuminated minds in this beautiful planet that we live in, and it's about Emmanuel, André Luiz, Dr. Bezerra, May May, Dr. Diaz da Cruz, and many other beautiful messages. These messages come to us in English first time ever. Yes, it was published in 1955, and the messages were mostly psychophonically received in the year 1954. And I'm going to explain to you how everything happened. So welcome to Kardec Radio, especially today it's Easter. But if you are watching or listening to this on demand and it's no longer Easter, an invitation to you. And the invitation is, we hope you feel the spirit of Easter, which is the renewal within ourselves. Okay? Easter for us in Spiritism means so many things. But if we could summarize 2 points, it's about Jesus, our Master, just reinforcing, I'm here with you. The question is, are we with Him? Second, it's about inner renewal. It's about inner transformation. It's about this begin anew. And we are at a perfect time to think about remodeling our mental house. How has your mental house been remodeled in this pandemic? You know, human beings by nature are resilient. Yes, we are. You may doubt it at times because you're stressed, overwhelmed, but our nature is resilient. We're ready to endure. Yes. Look at humankind history, and we're going to see the beauty of our human potential. We're children of God, and as such, we were created for beautiful things that we're yet to understand. And this book comes to open those possibilities for us. I'm going to say hi to all of you. I can see you've come in. Thank God you're in. Welcome, welcome, dear souls. I can see some of you here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And I want to share with you how this happened. This book, Instruções Psicofônicas, Psychophonic Instructions, came along in a very particular way. Usually, when we talk about mediumship, we think of speaking mediumship, writing mediumship, clairvoyance, clairaudience, healing manifestations, taps, noises, etc. Go to the Medium's book by Allan Kardec, and we are going to find the diversity of mediumship, the types of mediumship. There is a chapter about types of mediumship, and Kardec says, these are just some, but it varies to the infinite. Chico Xavier had different types of mediumship. He not only wrote the messages of the spirits, became the instrument through automatic writing or psychography, or psychography depends on types of, in terms of consciousness. And now psychophony. What is psychophony? Phonic, it's about spoken. It's about when a spirit speaks through us. It's like Emmanuel speaking through him. But imagine, in 1954, we didn't have the material resources that we have nowadays. You can record messages in your cell phone, right? Back in 1954, in the city of Pedro Leopoldo, Brazil, that was non-existent. So now we're going to invite our dear Arnaldo Rocha to lead us into this. Now I'm going to reveal something to you. Majority of you I know, were with us in the therapeutic conversations of the book Hail Christ by Emmanuel, right? You remember Tassianus? Now, Revelation. Where's Tassianus nowadays? We know that Emmanuel there in that book Hail Christ was the tuner, right? Basilius. Who was Tassianus? In the 20th century, Tassianus reincarnated in Brazil. His name, Arnaldo Rocha. Do you know who Arnaldo Rocha is? Now you need to know, because he is center stage in this book we're going to read about. He's the compiler of it all. Arnaldo Rocha, Arnaldo Rocha, however you want to pronounce this name, was Chico Xavier's friend. Husband of May. Reincarnated. Yeah. He was there in Belo Horizonte, Minas Gerais, Brazil. He was very resistant to many things. And then he gave in. He met Chico Xavier in the streets. Chico Xavier talked to him and talked about May. He was astounded. A friendship began. And then he started traveling, as he says in the preface of this book. He started traveling from Belo Horizonte to Pedro Leopoldo to do the meetings with Chico Xavier. That was year 1951. Parenthesis here. This revelation is confirmed by Arnaldo Rocha himself. I met him in person before he discarnated, but he also reveals it in several interviews on the internet. For those who understand Portuguese, you can verify. But we have the confirmation by several other spiritist scholars. So Chico Xavier told him that he is Tassianus in the book Hail Christ. So it's not by chance that we read this, and now we are reading this book, Instruções Psicofônicas, because it's a way for us to understand that life really goes on, meaning not only after death, but in the flesh. It's like internships in matter. From the 3rd century to now, Tassianus, May, and others back together, but now to do the works of the good. The Tassianus that was headstrong, stubborn, however you want to say, right? However you want to say it, is now a Christianized heart. He had the task, I would say kind of a mission, to work with Chico Xavier in these obsession meetings. And he says the following. I'm not going to read the preface in its entirety because it's too much. But he says, it was year 151, Arnaldo Rocha is saying. And frequent were his excursions from Belo Horizonte to Pedro Leopoldo, which is a neighboring city, and friendly conversations with Chico Xavier, and the cases of obsession were increasing in the Spiritist Center where Chico Xavier was working. The first Spiritist Center that he began Luis Gonzaga, which exists to date. On Mondays and Fridays, they had the public meetings, and many people were coming with severe needs to have spiritual treatments, this obsession. The multiplicity of said problems impressed us. Mental illnesses, as still happens today, appeared one after another. Possession, fascination, hysteria, imbalance, insanity. And Chico Xavier was repeatedly telling us of his desire of the spiritual mentors to create a group solely for this obsession. So, in the mid-1952, see how Chico Xavier was patient, huh? Arnaldo Rocha finally joined the task force. Finally. They invited those who have serious problems to come, and they began it all on the night of July 31st. They held the first meeting. So they opened another Spiritist center, which was May. If you go there to the city of Peter Leopoldo nowadays, you're going to find all these Spiritist centers. So they kept the Spiritist center for public purposes, but another one just for these obsession meetings, to separate it all, because many people were kind of harassing Chico Xavier. So they had to find a way to enclose themselves, even the structure of the center. Forgive me, because today I planned on bringing to you the sharing of these slides and just escaped me. But tomorrow I'll show it to you. The Spiritist Center May was even built differently. We were there last year, and you can see some of these pictures in the Spiritist magazine that we published last year. And I can tell you, in our app, the Spiritist magazine's app, which issue that is, which is issue number 46. And in issue 46, we're going to find Chico Xavier with that picture in the cover. As you can see here, I'm pointing out. If you're just listening to this, I apologize. Take a look at the Spiritist magazine. There is Chico Xavier psychographing book. A picture. Inside, I have pictures of the center. So it's a small door. You enter, it's a long hallway, and it's like a T shape. At the end, there is a rectangular room in which there was only a long rectangle table with several chairs around, like 16 or more, where they would do the mediumistic meetings for this obsession. Okay, just so you picture how it worked. Okay, so our dear Arnaldo Rocha is saying here that the group was small. Back then they had only 20 people working. 10 mediums, and the other 10 were holding the current, as we say. How did they work in these meetings? See, this book is a lesson for us on things we need to prepare for when the coronavirus goes away. We can probably restart these works of mediumship, this obsession. The program was like this. It came from the spiritual instructors, and it had rigid norms. This is the preface approved by Emmanuel. Written in 1955, Arnaldo Rocha wrote, rigid rules, parentheses. If we don't have discipline, we cannot work well. I met Arnaldo Rocha the year before he discarnated, and I tell you this, I participated in mediumistic meetings that he conducted, and I was impressed. His skills to direct that meeting were superb. I've seen several my whole life with different directors, different counselors in the Brazilian Spiritist Federation, different Spiritist centers. And I say, he is so skillful. But one thing a director needs and a counselor is, you need to know a lot about the teachings of Spiritism. I mean, a director of this meeting needs to read all and study all of Kardec's books, all. Needs to study all of André Luiz's books. Needs to know the books that talk about mediumship by Emmanuel, to say the least. And we're just cutting it short to a few. Huh? If you think it's much, it's just a few. We need to know it. Or we're going to coordinate these meetings blindly. So some people say, I want to begin it. Maybe you don't find the security within you because you need more instruction. So now the coronavirus is giving you a break in some ways, in terms of work, etc. So dig deeper. Because I know many people who say, I'm a spiritist, but they don't know about mediumship. They don't know the science, the spiritist science behind it. So there's always more for us to learn. There's always another level. I'm taking this time as much as I can to also deepen in aspects that I haven't been able to before. There's always something more. Okay? So remember, all of Kardec's books, all of André Luiz's books, all Emmanuel's books that are directly correlated to mediumship. And this is the minimum. To work safely on mediumship, that's the minimum. In terms of instruction, which is not the solely element. Right? But just to make it easier, if it's something we can make it tangible, that's the thing. Weekly meetings on Thursdays, Thursday evenings, that's when they did these meetings. Mediumistic activities in an atmosphere of intimacy, no public, total absence of public, just the people who were in the meeting, and discipline. He said strict schedule and clockwork. That's how precisely they worked with Chico Xavier. Okay? And because of the friends who work with us, the group received the name Grupo Meimei. So the name of that group became Meimei's group, and it's still like that to date. Because she was the mentor of the works. Last year we had the opportunity in May to be visiting the group, to give a talk at the group, and we were deeply moved by how they kept the purity of it all. And they are keeping the legacy of this group. And you can enter the place and you feel the vibrations. So you can create it where you are as well. This is our beginning, he said, starting the specialized work of the obsession in Pedro Leopoldo. And he did it for 13 years. They began in the other center and continued there. But in 1954, they transferred themselves to the actual headquarters that are there to date. Now he says, let's talk about the sessions, because this book, in Psychophonic Instructions, came about as a result of those meetings. They began their activities at noon on Thursdays. And the same day, every time. They set aside 15 minutes of an inspirational message, opening prayer, quick highlights, and then approximately 25 to 15 minutes after that, they started the rescue work. Consoling, enlightening the disturbed spirits, which is the work of the obsession. And they did that for an hour and a half. That takes a lot of discipline to be done. So they started the works. After almost 2 hours, they ended it. At the final part, 15 minutes before finalizing it, there was a prayer to the sick. So it's like what we call intercessory prayer for those who are receiving at a distance. And 15 minutes before the closing, they received messages that were spoken through Chico Xavier, what we call psychophonic messages. Okay? Now, the book came about because one day they were visited by a man who made this book, a book that I have in my purse ever since. For those who are Brazilians, you may know this book, Minutes of Wisdom. We have this translation, but it's copyrighted by a particular publisher in Brazil. They never released it, the copyright, because this book is bestseller in Brazil. Short messages that have been helping people across different religions. Carlos Torres Pastorino, a former priest who became a spiritist in Brazil, visiting Chico Xavier in 1954, seeing one of these meetings, he said, you have to record it. And they said, how? And he said, I live in Rio de Janeiro, I can tell you how. So he said, I can give you the tape recorder that I got. And you can see in the picture that we have there how it was. The picture of our banner at Kardec Radio for this program. They have the large tape recorder of the time, which very few people had back then. Only people who were really wealthy could have it. So he donated to the group. So you see the beautiful teamwork effort, right? Right, so beautiful. I agree with you, Weber Costa. That's why mediumship course takes 12 to 18 months. So when people say, I want to work on mediumship, even those who say, I have a long experience, but are you doing continuing studies? Because when that pride comes in and we are now renewing ourselves, we become fascinated, blind, and that's dangerous. So he says that in March of 1954, they started recording these superb messages that you're going to start feeling today. What a joy. Huh? It's been what? 60, 40, 65, 66 years ago. We're talking about 66 years ago. Am I right? Am I right? Friends, let me see. Okay, let me see if I'm not mistaken here. Just in case. I'm not perfect. Okay. Yeah, 66 years ago. For the first time ever, the world is going to listen to the voice of these spirits, what they have been telling us. Beautiful messages that can console, guide us, empower us. So Chico Xavier received them psychophonically in the last quarter of their sessions, and many times after exhaustive work in the reception of disturbed spirits. Chico Xavier used to be medium of rescue work, so disturbed entities would come through him and be counseled by Arnaldo Rocha, the writer of the preface of this book, who is the reincarnation of Tassianis in the book Hail Christ. So read this book and then come here to this program, because you're going to see the beauty of our progress. Somebody who resisted Christ and now becomes the manager of these beautiful instructions that we're going to be cherishing in the programs here. So someone then suggests the convenience of organizing the book. And of course, Chico Xavier said yes, and Emilio said yes. And here we have it. So he is grateful to God, to Jesus, to Chico Xavier, to May, and we're thankful to Arnaldo Rocha. I remember when I first met Arnaldo Rocha in 2010, 10 years ago, on an event in Brazil in April by the Brazilian Spiritist Federation, a major event in celebration of his centenary birthday, 100 years of Chico Xavier. And I met him there, and then the next year I came there to talk closer with him, and I thank Wagner da Paixão, Haroldo Truta Dias, and others who were helping us, and later also Luiz Sérgio Maroda. I have to say, Luiz Sérgio Maroda, I thank you so much. He was my first bridge to the treasures. His friendship is truly treasured. Luiz Sérgio Maroda is a scholar in Spiritism in Brazil, and soon he's going to be here back at Kardec Radio doing some live programs. He has so much to share with us. He lives in Belo Horizonte. And Geraldo Lemos Neto, whom you all know, a friend and also somebody who is close to Chico, who has been inspiring us to know more, to study more in terms of Spiritism. Are you ready for the first message that was brought in? Yes. So Souza is asking, what's the name of the book in Portuguese? We're going to say tonight. Okay, I'm going to type it in, okay? Instruções Psicofônicas. That's the name in Portuguese, so, okay? The book in English is not yet published, but it's fully translated, thanks to Carlos, my husband. I have to thank him because he really did a wonderful job. And we're revising it, because there's always the revision. And one day we're going to send it to the Brazilian Spiritist Federation. If they feel like publishing, great. If they don't, maybe they will one day. I don't know. But we need to do our share and share with you now. We're going to share these beautiful instructions that we need nowadays. You may be asking, but Vanessa, I'm desperate because of the coronavirus. I'm desperate because of the job loss. I'm desperate because of... I say, look, remember, life is bigger than our problems. You think your problem is bigger than life? It's the reverse. Life is bigger than our problems. And what we consider problems are actually solutions. You think they are obstacles. God is taking them as opportunities. We need to expand our horizons. And this message is coming to us to teach us to expand horizons. We suffer because we're limited. Because when we expand our horizons, our suffering diminishes. And that's our task here at Kardec Radio. To nourish your soul, to empower you, and to share with you instructions that if you absorb, if I absorb, we will have our horizons amplified. We'll see life from a bigger perspective, greater angles, different angles, and we'll be able to reassess what we're experiencing. Okay? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Go! Who are we gonna come? We're gonna call Emmanuel, chapter 1. The first message of the book is from the Spirit Emmanuel, of course. How beautiful is it that in the 3rd century, Emmanuel was there as a Christian slave, Greek slave, who became friends with Tassianus, who was not Christian, but was respected by Tassianus, who was Roman. Tassianus discarnates as a converted Christian. He is received by Basilius Emmanuel then, and from there on they are working together centuries to come. And in the 20th century, Tassianus is reincarnated as Arnaldo Rocha, working with Emmanuel, who is discarnating. discarnated, but working through Chico Xavier, being this faithful manager of this rescue works, the director of the meetings. He never stopped until his last days in this life. And he lived a long life. Arnaldo Rocha continued his work until he was, 90-something? As far as I remember. He was still working as a spirit counselor. What an inspiration. What an inspiration. It's an inspiration telling us, you and I progress, period. We never regress. Never. But what about my mistakes? It doesn't matter. We always progress. We're going to find another way. And that's how Arnaldo Rocha is bringing it to us. The past is really in the past. Ready? Emmanuel. On June 10th, 1955, he wrote, quoting Matthew chapter 28, verse 9. And as they went to tell his disciples, behold, Jesus met them, saying, may all hail. Emmanuel says, the night sky has blurred on the horizon. At dawn, the women of Jerusalem went to the tomb of the eternal friend for the exaltation of longing. You won't believe it, huh? That today it's Easter and we are reading a message that talks about it. You think I planned it? No. I couldn't. Because we're just going with the flow of the Good Spirit's counsel. I don't have time to do this minutious planning. Sincerely, because I have Virginia, have a husband, the School of Emotion, 10,000 things, cleaning the house, doing laundry. There's no time. There's no time. But it's amazing that Emmanuel's message will talk precisely about Jesus coming back. What we're celebrating today, Easter. But restless, the women of Jerusalem find it empty. The astonished guards tell them that life triumphed over death. And when the faithful sisters turn to rejoice to announce to their companions the great news, behold, Jesus comes to them again, exclaiming happily, I greet you. It's not a returning ghost. He is not a dead man among the cloths of the tomb. He carries no signs of sadness. He does not spread terror or mourning. The Master radiates joyful love and claims, hail. At the threshold of this book, formed with the living word of the discarnate friends, we remember the celestial benefactor in his glorious resurrection. And we wish these pages a salutation of the living of the spirituality that cry for the living of the human school. Brethren, take advantage of the time that is given to you on earth for the construction of true happiness. Death is renewal, investing the soul in possession of the good, or the evil that it has cultivated in itself during the existence. Come, hope, you who weep in the shadow of trials. Bear the pain as a blessing from heaven and advance towards the light without fainting. In addition to the ash that the tomb spreads over the dreams of the flesh, The soul that loved and rose is reborn, full of joy in eternal life. Such a splendid sun, blazing beyond the night. After a short stage on earth, you'll be with us in triumphant immortality. Help each other. Educate yourselves. Learn and serve. And seeking the inspiration of Jesus for our daily struggle, we pray to God to bless us all. Emmanuel. Jaw dropped. We are here working in these understandings, and today it's Easter. It's all about Jesus coming back. The so-called, quote-unquote, resurrection. But what is it all about? It's a call to revisit our true understanding of life. You're watching the news and you see the death toll and you think, oh my gosh. No, we're not going to celebrate. But we're not going to be sad. Why? Because death is renewal. We discarnate today to reincarnate in better shape tomorrow. What we think is so good here today, we will see with other eyes that this is not the purpose of our staying here. We're not here to stay in this castle because it's a sand castle. Material life is like a sand castle. One day, the wave of death is gonna come, and wash it away. All the grains will be recycled. There's no actual destruction. There is transformation. So what we're seeing in the world today is a call to give a new meaning to life and to death. Death is part of life. Even for materialists, we say, look, you look in nature. An animal eats another animal. It's nature. Death is nature. It's natural. But we don't feel it as natural. I know some people don't want to hear that. They say, please don't talk about it. We have to talk about it. And then you're right, Souza. Maybe we planned it out. And if now comes the end, oh, but I didn't say goodbye to the family. But you didn't go away either. We're being called to hope. He says here, to hope. And he says, be resilient. He says, bear the pain. Because the pain is a blessing from heaven. And advance towards the light without stopping. And he says, after this short experiencing here, you too, all of us, will be back home. When I passed by a cemetery, Mentor Joseph said, you know your body is going to be there one day. I said, I know. But let me feel the warmth of the body just for now. I joke with him, but he's just saying, think about it, like Joana de Angelis tells us. Think about that transition that will happen with you and loved ones sooner or later. That doesn't mean we're not going to cry. That doesn't mean we're not going to miss, because that's human. But we're not going to go desperate. Vanessa, I don't want to talk about death. But we're not talking about death. We're talking about life. Because death doesn't exist. Death is just a gateway. There's no end. Look at this book. It's just showing the continuity of things. Talking about those who are in the spiritual realm and are as human as we are. Look at André Louis' books. The discarnate spirits feel what we feel. They feel the pains, the sorrows, the struggles, the same emotions. It's nothing to do with the physical body. It's about us, spirits. We are human in our stage of evolution. That's where we are. So he recommends to us seeing Jesus after his dramatic death. He doesn't come back crying to the women of Jerusalem. He doesn't come back and say, "Oh, did you see, Mary, what they've done to me?" No, he's glorious. And he says, "Rejoice, rejoice." He radiates joyful love and claims, "Rejoice. Hey, you. Take advantage of the time that is given to you on earth for the construction of true happiness." So Jesus comes after death with no sorrows, no sadness, no tears. It's all about joy. The joy of true living. The true life is in the spiritual realm. Sometimes I tell this to Virginia because she's a child. Say, "You know, my daughter, the true life is in the spiritual realm." She says, "But no, Mom. Of course, it's hard to grasp at this age." And I say, "But it is. We're here just like going to school. But the true life is there. We need to be reminded of this. This may be fun, but it's not going to be for long. And what we do here is going to affect when we go back there. So let us do what Emmanuel says. Emulating Jesus. Help each other. Are we helping each other? So, assessment question. Are we helping each other? Educate yourselves. Are we educating ourselves? Education means changing habits. Learn and serve, meaning are we instructing? Are we open to the new? Are we reaching out? And seeking the inspiration of Jesus daily, he says, we pray to God to bless us. This is the checklist that Emmanuel brings to us today. What is the exercise in the next 24 hours? Pick one of the things in the list. He begins, number 1, help each other. Am I helping others? 2, he says, educate yourselves, learn and serve. Am I changing my habits? Am I open to the new to learn? Am I reaching out? 3rd, seek the inspiration of Jesus daily to request Jesus' blessing, God's blessing. Because Jesus is the pathway, not the end. He's the path. This is our exercise in the next 24 hours. Exercise to empower us with this beautiful immortal message. Let us pray together, shall we, friends? Pray for the world. Yes, pray for God's blessings. Our beautiful earth. Let us keep exercising this and uniting our hearts to pray for all who live in this earth, who are here. Let us bring them dearly snuggle with our planet. Bring it to the heart, hold it dearly, caress it, and say, Dear God, we ask for your blessings, not because you don't bless us, but because we recognize that without your blessings, we are nothing. May we align and realign with ourselves today and always. May we adjust ourselves to your divine plans. And may right now the healing vibrations of your love envelop this beautiful blue planet and everyone who is in it, especially those who are suffering. May they feel the envelopment of your love and rejoice. And so be it. Planet Earth, we love you. So friends, exercises, here we go with immortal messages. Thanks to Chico Xavier, thanks to Arnaldo Rocha, thanks to Emmanuel and many friends. Tomorrow we will come back with a beautiful message by Dr. Bezerra de Menezes from the book Psychophonic Instructions for you and for me at Kardec Radio, always nourishing our souls. A big hug, and until tomorrow, God willing.